call for the Coalition for the UN We Need. Our agenda, I hope, provides lots of time for questions and discussion. But you're also free, of course, as always, to add comments in the chat section. If you do have questions for later on after we've proceeded through our agenda of updates, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Just by way of introduction and setting the scene for today's discussion, I'll recall that in the UN 75 declaration that was adopted September 21st, member states commemorating the 75th anniversary of the United Nations identified 12 commitment areas across the global agenda, and they also mandated the Secretary General to report back before the end of the 75th session of the General Assembly, which is the session we're in now, with recommendations, and I'm quoting, with recommendations to advance our common agenda and to respond to current and future challenges. And this is now being seen as an opportunity to engage in some stock taking and seeking measures to strengthen the UN organization. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for a, quote, more networked and inclusive UN and a new global deal. In a January 28th speech on priorities for this year, he said, and I'm quoting, my UN 75 follow-up report in September should be seen as the beginning of this reset for the organization, which may take some time. Strengthening global governance to deliver public goods is possible. And more recently, on the 23rd of March, the Secretary General's vision statement outlining his goals for his second, what is expected to be his second term as Secretary General, included additional detail of some of these themes, what he called a UN 2.0. And I'll put a link in the chat to that vision statement. If you do check it out, go to the bottom of the statement to see what further detail on what he has in mind for this UN 2.0, this global reset of the UN organization. The upcoming Our Common Agenda report is expected in September, and so we're in a period of really preparation for that report. The Office of the Secretary General has initiated a series of consultations, including with civil society. We expect to be contacting you soon regarding a digital consultation that is part of the Secretary General's outreach to, quote, we the peoples. And so we've been asked to help disseminate this digital consultation, and this will be part of the preparation for the report in September. And so we're in a period now of anticipation and preparation, and the developments that form our agenda today are really the activities that are anticipatory of the Secretary General's report. The preparations that the Coalition for the UN We Need is undertaking, as well as the numerous meetings that go into providing inputs to that report in September. And so these updates should form the first part of our agenda today. We'll go through updates on our strategic plan, some recent events, some upcoming events, and then, as I said, have time for questions and discussion. So with that, I will now turn the floor over to Senior Advisor for the Coalition for the UN We Need, Jeffrey Huffines, to bring us up to speed on the new strategic plan for the coalition, for the UN We Need, the restructuring, and some of the participation opportunities with the coalition. Jeff.
Thank you so much, Fergus, and I'm delighted to join everyone on this call, and we welcome your participation. So, Fergus, as you indicated, as the 75th anniversary of the UN drew to a close last year, our campaign undertook a holistic reassessment of its purpose and goals, and we initiated a restructuring process to support future civil society action beyond the year 2020 in support of both the UN 75 political declaration that was adopted by member states last September, as well as the UN 75 People's Declaration and Plan for Global Action adopted by UN 2020 members last May. And so last December, we adopted a 3-year strategic plan based upon the expectation that the recommendations to be made by the Secretary General in this mandated report that you mentioned will include a call for a dedicated intergovernmental process to strengthen and reform the legal and institutional machinery of the UN system. I think, as everyone knows, the political declaration adopted by states last September seeks to advance our common agenda in order to renew the world's social contract and revive core values to address these challenges we face collectively today. And so there are 12 commitments in the declaration, which are wide-reaching, from taking climate action to ensuring peaceful societies, from gender equality to youth engagement, among others. So we as a coalition are now in a transition phase whereby we are implementing the provisions of our strategic plan that includes the rebranding of the campaign and a reorganization of its management structure to make it more democratic, inclusive, and representative of global civil society. So first, to strengthen engagement and ownership of the work of the campaign, we are now inviting civil society networks and organizations to apply for membership under 3 different categories: that of partners, members, and supporters. And each category of engagement enjoys a different set of benefits and opportunities. And so, Monique, if you could please provide the link regarding these, the application for these membership categories into the chat box, that would be great. Now, C4UN partners are organizations that have an active role in the coalition's substantive work, including through the implementation of its campaigns, programs, advocacy, and other activities of the coalition. As a result of this role, partner organizations may make both time and financial commitments to the coalition's overall functioning. Some of the responsibilities of partners include contributing to the facilitation of standing committees, the thematic work groups, and multilateral innovation hubs in order to ensure continuity. We would ask partners to assist the Secretariat in resource mobilization. We would also ask partners to engage with UN member states, with the UN Secretariat and other stakeholders on behalf of the campaign, including by speaking on behalf of the coalition in relevant meetings for the media. And importantly, only partner organizations may nominate a representative to serve on the steering committee, which will replace the UN 2020 coordination group. Now, the steering committee shall be composed of the members of the Secretariat as non-voting members and 9 partner member organizations serving 2-year terms. These members shall be diverse across a number of criteria, including regional representation, organization type, and area of work. The steering committee will then elect 2 co-facilitators from among its members, representing organizations from the Global South and North, who will serve as the public face of the coalition to the outside world. Now, in order to participate, individuals serving on the steering committee must be a member of a partner organization and may not serve more than 2 terms. And each organization may have no more than 1 representative on the steering committee, and these representatives may designate an alternate from his or her organization when unavailable to participate. Now, as you know, we have commenced the process of selecting members of the steering committee through an independent nomination committee. And in response to the call for nominations, we're delighted to have received 29 nominations that are now being reviewed by a nomination committee appointed by the UN 2020 Coordination Group, consisting of 3 persons: myself as a member of the Secretariat, Volker Lehman of Frederick Ebert Stiftung, New York, as an outgoing member of the UN 2020 Coordination Group, and Selina Sanu of the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, based in Kenya, as a partner organization. During this transition phase in 2021, the nomination committee will select a fixed slate of nominees for the C4UN Steering Committee to be presented to the membership at large. For now, this will be a selection process, not an election. So questions about voting procedures and entitlements for future elections can be decided by the steering committee once it is established. In total, the nomination committee shall select persons from 9 partner member organizations. And to ensure continuity of the C4UN steering committee and the balance between old and new participants in the transition from UN 2020 to the Coalition for the UN We Need, 4 members of the UN 2020 Coordination Group shall be joined by 5 new global or regional partners to comprise the new C4UN Steering Committee. Now, also on the agenda here is another initiative we have launched, the Multilateral Innovation Hubs. Now, the idea is that these hubs will provide a platform for collaboration to advance progressive proposals that strengthen the UN system. Each hub will be rooted in a body of research and/or advocacy track record. Each will identify resident experts who will provide thought leadership and relevant scholarship for the further refinement of these innovative ideas. And each hub will generate annotated C4UN issue briefs, providing background to the proposal and other references, scholarship, UN legislative antecedents, advocacy, etc. The MIH program will not only generate renewed perspectives on well-grounded evidence-based innovations in global governance, but also will provide a vehicle for activity, advocacy, and engagement among civil society experts, member states, secretariat officials, and other stakeholders. So earlier this year, we issued a call for multilateral innovation hubs, and we were delighted to receive 21 proposals so far. Now, some examples of potential focus include reinforcing commitments to the 2030 agenda, including strengthening the HLPF, working with partners to support the establishment of a civil society champion, a dedicated office of the UN Secretariat that would monitor and advocate for improvements to modalities related to the civil society participation in the UN, the discussions on a comprehensive pact for the environment, and strengthening the office of the President of the General Assembly. This is just a kind of an overview of some of the implementation of our strategic plan going forward. Looking ahead, we look forward to convening a global town hall that will be linked to a General Assembly high-level event featuring the initial results of the SG's Our Common Agenda initiative, as well as we hope to organize regional dialogues, briefings, and events to facilitate an exchange of ideas and proposals relevant to these 12 commitments. And so with these activities, we're aiming to inform the Secretary General's follow-up report on UN 75, which will be a key agenda item when heads of state gather to speak at the UN General Assembly in September. So later this year, we will be hosting our 2nd annual People's Forum. And in 2020, we adopted the People's Declaration. And at this year's forum, we are hoping to again look forward to reflecting on the outcomes of the SG's report and related follow-up to the UN 75 commitments in the year ahead. Back to you, Fergus.
Thanks very much, Jeff. And I see a couple of questions in the chat regarding whether there will be a recording available of this meeting. and perhaps colleagues didn't follow every detail of how they become a partner or a member of of the coalition. And but yes, the answer to the question is yes. There will be a recording available at the C4UN website. We're going to move on and discuss, review some of the recent events and programs, starting with a meeting that took place during the Commission on the Status of Women. I'm going to see if Dan Perel is available to speak to this agenda item. Dan, are you with us?
Hi there, I'm with you, but I'm actually driving and would prefer to not share if somebody else could reflect back. But nice to be with you all. That's
that's fine, Dan. I had been told that you would not be available, but then I saw saw that you were on the screen, so I thought I'd take a to see if Dan was the co-moderator for this event. So I'll just give a quick overview for the event and then provide a link to the meeting report in the chat. The event was titled Gender Justice for the UN Decade of Action and the Generation Equality Forum. And the Generation Equality Forum is a new forum that's being sponsored by the governments of Mexico and France and is meant to be a multi-stakeholder process, bringing civil society, foundations, member states into dialogue across a range of action coalitions intended to bring gender issues across the mainstream other activities of the UN. So this particular meeting focused on economic justice, climate action, and peace and security, and featured speakers from social movements on the one hand, and Gender Equality Forum action coalitions on the other, and then generated a set of recommendations that you can find in the report. The event was held on the 22nd of March, and as I mentioned, I'll put a link in the chat. And just to say that it was, if you want to follow this process, the first Gender Equality Forum took place on the 29th, from the 29th to the 31st of March in Mexico City. And this will be followed by another forum hosted by France in June. And this process has a 5-year anticipated to go on for 5 years, and so it's an interesting new forum for dialogue and mobilization among social movements. Up next, I would another event that took place recently was focused also on was held during the time of the Commission on the Status of Women, and was hosted by NGO CSD New York, and focused on women and leadership. So I'd like to call on Margot Lazaro to provide an overview of that report. And Margot, I know your organization has another upcoming event, so maybe while you have the floor, you could also let us know what's in store for the meeting that's taking place, I believe, on the 29th of April. Margot.
Yes. Thank you so much, Fergus, and we appreciate the opportunity. You know, we have, as the NGO Committee on Sustainable Development in New York, working in partnership with C4 New York, C4UN. We have really enjoyed the partnership, and this is really the highlight, the People's Declaration, which we bring in every one of our sessions. So on, thank you for this, and on March 25th, we held our CSW dialogue on women leaders impact change. We had Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney came in live she was our opening address. We had Tessie Jane Asor who came in from Zurich, and we had Salma Nems coming in from Jordan. All women leaders making a change in their communities for women, not only in their communities, but globally. And we also had the Dr. Ofek Abdul Razek, who is the First Lady of Kawak State, Nigeria. She's the wife of the governor. So it was really quite a powerful group of women, and sharing their impacts that they're making with their leadership. And we were really happy to see our good friend Carolyn Maloney from the U.S. Congress joining us again. And of course, Jeffrey Hupline came in, bringing in our letting them know what we're doing with the People's Declaration. So that was a good dialogue. And we're coming back again now on the 29th of April, as you mentioned, and we're going to have one on education. Everywhere threaded through this, we're also bringing in the impact too of the pandemic and how we are overcoming those issues. So we have education meeting new challenges, and we are going to have we have a Professor Pemington Ford coming in from Cambridge. We have Rama Damadoran joining us from UN Academic Impact, and a really good friend and colleague, Ambassador Dr. Mikhail Molnar, the ambassador of Slovakia. And actually his wife will be joining us as well, who is also an educator. So we have people coming in from Chile, Kenya, Israel, and a wide range of feedback from educators and students. So also with the inclusion of the People's Declaration. So we thank you. And again, in May, we will be approaching the topic of health and well-being. Thank you so much, Fergus, for the opportunity, and we look forward to supporting the Global Town Hall coming up soon in a couple of months. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Margot, and thanks to NGO CSD New York for all that you're doing. I'd like to turn next to Christina Petku from the Stimson Center, who is the lead partner for a series of the Stimson Center is the lead partner for a series of expert roundtables that are meant to provide inputs to the upcoming Secretary General's report. It's quite a robust program, 6 meetings, and we're only not even halfway through it, but we're getting there. Christina, could you give us the state of play on the expert roundtables, please?
Yes, I just can't put my video on. Maybe Monique can help me with that. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us from all over the world. That's as far as I can see. It is great to see you in the room. I see that there's about almost 100 of us here today, and I'm really glad to see this and see that you're engaged and interested in the process. I have mentioned to you during the last global call that the Coalition for the UN, we need and other partners, including the Elders and Club de Madrid, are organizing a 6-part fulfilling the UN 75 Declaration expert series, where select thought leaders from global civil society engage with UN missions and secretariat officials in a candid dialogue on the process, on the progress and challenges, and also further measures that needed to be taken in order to meet the 12 commitments of the UN 75 Declaration. And the expert series aims to contribute with insights and concrete proposals for consideration in the Secretary General's forthcoming Our Common Agenda report. They are organized under the Chatham House rule, but not for attribution. Summary reports for these meetings are available to the public, and I'll make them available to you in the chat box as well. To date, we have organized 3 roundtables. So we have hit our half mark. We have organized already 3 of them on commitments: 1, leave no one behind; 2, protect our planet; 5, place women and girls at the center; 10, boost partnerships; 11, listen to youth; and 12, be prepared. We are organizing a 4th roundtable on commitments 3. We will promote peace, and 4, international law and justice. and we're doing that tomorrow. Generally, we had approximately 10 to 15 missions, UN missions represented in each roundtable, in addition to civil society experts and scholars. And the summary reports from the 2 roundtables, as I said, have been published, and I will be sharing them with you shortly in the chat box. We do hope to consolidate all these summary reports, so there will be 6 reports in total, and we hope to consolidate them and of course share them with the EOSG, but also share them with you and the general public at large. In addition, we do hope to organize, we're brainstorming a potential town hall in May where we can engage you all in a discussion on some of the findings from this compendium, but the compendium more broadly, but also the ESG report. So we'll keep you updated on that. I have to say that we are facing some uncertainty regarding what will be in the SG report. All we know is that it's some sort of a stock-taking exercise, but at the same time, it is supposed to come with recommendations to advance these commitments. And it's also because their outreach process, it's much more limited this time around than the one that was conducted by the UN 75 office. So unfortunately, I do have to say that I'm not really sure exactly how much from our inputs is going to be considered for this report, but nevertheless, I think what we're trying to do, and also trying to respond and go to Tad's question, is to really make the case that a broader conversation, an inclusive conversation, needs to happen, whether or not it's conducted by the USG or not. And something that the Stimson Center has advanced last year, has put forward last year, was this idea of a world summit or an inclusive global governance. Thus far, we will hope that Sweden and Qatar, who are the co-facilitators of the UN 75 declaration, could take the lead on this summit. Unfortunately, they did not express yet any sort of clear interest in this. There is definitely some support from certain member states. I would argue here that the EU is one of them. But we haven't seen any clear or formal commitment from them on this idea. However, we will continue to push for it because we do think that the Secretary General's report could be one of the avenues that can advocate for this sort of summit. That is all from my side, Fergus, and I have to leave shortly, but if you have any quick questions, I'm happy to respond them before I leave.
Thanks very much, Christina. I think you've answered one of the questions, at least that was in the chat from Tad Daly on when you spoke about the proposed Summit on Inclusive Global Governance. If others have quick questions for Christina, they could put them in the chat, and she can either respond in the chat or we will forward them. I'd like to turn our agenda now from a summary of recent and ongoing programs and events, and look at what's coming up ahead, and ask Yasmina Gorshan to give us an overview of the number of activities that lie ahead for the coalition. Yasmina.
Great. Thanks so much, Fergus, and thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Yasmina, and I am the Outreach Associate for the C4UN. So I'd like to share a number of upcoming events that we have in the coming months, both organized by the C4UN and a number of our partner organizations. So I'll start off first with those organized by C4UN. So we have in the works a series of regional meetings, regional consultations that we hope will bring the conversation out from the New York UN arena to having a more global perspective. And we'll be ideally partnering with local organizations on those and be hosting them in local languages, et cetera. And these meetings will also feed into our next event, which is our second annual People's Forum, which my colleague Jeff mentioned will be taking place in October this year, not May like last year. And then in terms of timing, this forum will be taking place after the issuance of the Secretary General's report, which will allow us a more forward-looking, reflective meeting in this post-anniversary year. And the final event I will mention is our Global Town Hall, which is ideally going to be taking place in early June. The date is TBD, but we will announce that as it becomes more solidified. And this meeting will also serve a few different purposes. It will serve ideally as a kickoff for the regional meetings I had mentioned earlier, as a culminating event for the expert roundtables that my colleague Christina mentioned a few moments ago. And we're also discussing possibly linking this to a PGA organized event, bringing together stakeholders involved in this UN 75 follow-up consultation. So those are the events that we at C4UN will be organizing in the next couple of months. And just to highlight a few events organized by our partners. The first one we have coming up next week is the Better Climate Matters conference, which will be taking place on the 19th of April. And I will add that to the chat now. And that is going to discuss how improving the effectiveness of global meetings on climate action will therefore support global climate action more effectively. And the next meeting that we have is organized by our colleagues at the Asia Democracy Network, who will be organizing the Gwangju Democracy Forum from the 17th to the 21st of May. And the theme this year is post-pandemic global democracy. I will also put that in the chat. And the final event that I will mention is organized by the Academic Council on the UN System, or ACUNS, who will be hosting their global annual meeting from the 24th to the 26th of June under the theme Towards a Fit for Future UN System. And this conference will include a variety of panels, roundtable events, and a call for papers. And I will put that also in the chat. And I'm happy to share any further details about the meetings organized by C4UN or our partner organizations. Back to you, Fergus.
Thanks very much, Yasmina. So this is good. We're halfway through our scheduled 1 hour, and those are the items on our formal agenda. So now we do have some time for questions, discussion, comments. I'm going to start by either responding to a few of the questions that have been posted in the chat, or to ask colleagues on the panel who are better equipped to do so to answer some of these questions. The first question was discussed, at least in part, by Christina Petku. It comes from Tad Daly in Los Angeles with Citizens for Global Solutions, and he's asking about this idea of a world summit on inclusive global governance sponsored by Sweden and Qatar. And his question is, are they and others actually planning such a summit, or is it simply an idea of that governments have yet to embrace? And I guess the short answer is that it's just an idea that's out there that governments have yet to embrace. However, I would also add that there is, in the discussion of the follow-up process to the Secretary General's report, there is a lot of talk being bandied about how some UN summits can be part of the response to, and the rebuilding and strengthening of the UN. In particular, there's a lot of energy around the idea of a social summit, perhaps 30 years after the 1995 Summit on Social Development. And there's also a lot of discussion around the idea of a summitry that would link to other global governance institutions. And this gets to a question that was a very good question from John Bunzel. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. He's saying, is there any interest/opportunity to put forward global governance innovations that may not directly involve the UN, but may be complementary to it? The UN is the primary institution for global governance, but it's not the only institution, and there are important organizations that deal with international trade, international finance, and managing of the international monetary system, et cetera, the Bretton Woods institutions. And there is also discussion around whether some more better networked framework of cooperation between these institutions can be a result of the process that the Secretary General will be initiating. That has at least been hinted in the vision statement from the Secretary General that I outlined earlier. Jeff, I wonder if you wanted to add anything to this general question about post UN 75 summits and just what some of the scuttlebutt and gossip is that you're hearing.
Yeah, no, this is a good, this obviously is an important line of inquiry. Those of you who are following the FFD forum that is now taking place this week will know that in the zero draft of that outcome document, there was actually a paragraph that had called for another summit and another financing for development conference at head of state level. Unfortunately, I guess you could say, we understand that paragraph has been taken out at least for this year's outcome document, with the recommendation that member states consider this for next year. I believe that the rationale is because of the continued COVID restrictions. It really, member states haven't been able to really discuss this idea further. So it's just all to say that there is the idea of these summits is out there. Obviously, we're very eagerly anticipating the development of the SG's report. I mean, I guess initial indications are that this SG report will be substantive, that it will perhaps recommend a intergovernmental process as we have advocated of some sort, perhaps along the lines of Kofi Annan's initiatives, back in the 1990s, where he had the We the People's report that kind of provided kind of a general level of principle that was followed by a more substantive report in Larger Freedom, whereby several specific UN reform proposals were proposed. And so, I guess all we can say is stay tuned, and we certainly hope that this campaign will be instrumental in providing the input and support of civil society in the year ahead.
Thanks, Jeff. There's another couple of questions in the chat that are asking about our procedures as a campaign and coalition, and it's a very pragmatic question about whether we're open to French, and someone else has William Charpentier has made a reference to Espanol, and the whole question of, I just want to advise people that when it comes to translation and interpretation, we do our best, but it's not enough. We recognize that. We have translated and most of our key documents as a campaign, and they're available on the website, particularly the People's Declaration from last May, and also at major events we do provide interpretation as well. But these are, of course, unfortunately, questions of budget, and we can't provide simultaneous interpretation for every event we hold, and can't afford to translate into all the official UN languages every document we produce. So and you know, the same goes for the UN. Sometimes they produce documents that aren't translated into all the official languages. But you know, I'm sorry that's the best we can do by way of an answer to this question. But it is a very good question, and we do aim to improve. And we're trying to raise funds to, among other things, provide translation and interpretation. Another question that has been sent to us, it relates to the selection of the next Secretary General. Richard Jordan asks or states that so far there is only one candidate for the position of Secretary General, but there are 6 quote unquote applicants that have been put forth to UN member states. And are we assuming that this Secretary General will be the only choice for member states to approve from the recommendations of the Security Council? I'm guessing that the short answer to that question is yes, that this Secretary General will be the only choice that member states will have to vote on. But perhaps, Jeff, do you want to provide any additional background on the Secretary General selection process, and also perhaps say a few words about the work that the colleagues at the 1 for 7 billion campaign are undertaking, because I know that's a process that's focused not just on the selection of the Secretary General, but also on UN leadership generally. Oh, you're mute, Jeff.
Sorry about that. Okay. No, I'm glad you mentioned the 1 for 7 billion campaign's discussion paper that they released recently on unsettled elements of the 2021 selection process, which includes this very issue of the nomination criteria and whether or not it is, you know, mandated by the UN Charter or procedures that only member states can nominate candidates. And so this is a paper that seeks to demand clarity on these procedural issues. We understand that the Office of the President of the General Assembly, the OPGA, has received, I believe, up to 6 or 7 proposals or nominations from individuals or from organizations that are not member states. And, you know, I mean, I think, you know, from the point of view of civil society, we certainly would, we're asking for greater transparency in this process. And so, you know, it's a developing situation. I will say that that there is a meeting of the General Assembly that has been scheduled to hear from the Secretary General in his articulation of his vision statement, which I posted in the chat box. And so it remains to be seen that if there will be other candidates put forward in this process.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Moving on to other questions, and thanks. There's quite a lot of questions. There are 2 related questions from Mohammed Haq, and if I can just summarize, I mean, there's a long preamble about the present insecurity in Bangladesh and illegal imprisonment and so on, and treatment of civilians. But his question is related to whether the campaign supports a UN armed force that can intervene to stop conflict or prevent conflict. And We did address this question in the declaration that was adopted last year, and so there is a suggestion that the UN should do more to increase its standing capacities of peacekeepers, not just an armed forces, but civilians and police, and the capacity to intervene quickly. If the UN had its own standing personnel capacities, it might be able to intervene in situations where conflict is imminent or just beginning more effectively, rather than the present situation of waiting until a conflict has begun, or until there is a peace agreement after post-conflict. And this is a long-standing idea that for reforming the UN, but in general, there's a whole range, a spectrum of proposals that would strengthen peace operations, and we are intent on examining these in the context of the process that we hope will be initiated after September. There's another question from Shirley Young. Any transparent social media platform on social policy and women's empowerment with good practices from different countries. And I would suggest that this is at least a part of the agenda for the Generation Equality Forum, is to share good practices and so on. But more broadly, it's of course the focus of the annual Commission on the Status of Women, and this year we don't have some of our experts who followed closely the CSW process are not on the call today, but Jeff, I don't know if you wanted to say anything about the outcome at the CSW, and or Shirley's question about how we can strengthen the capacities for exchange of good practices on social policy and women empowerment.
Well, I mean, what I will say, I mean, I don't think we have the time, and nor this is the venue to really go into detail about the CSW outcome, but also there was of course the Generation Equality Forum in Mexico. But just to say that, I mean, this is definitely an issue that we would want to see interrogated in one or more of our proposed multilateral innovation hubs. And indeed, you know, Sun Young Yoon, who is a partner member of our campaign, and took a leading role in organizing the Generation Equality Forums. I mean, her point of view is that these Generation Equality Forums are themselves a multilateral innovation hub designed to facilitate a far greater participatory kind of mechanism for addressing the issues. So I think this is something that we definitely as a campaign want to support. I mean, the idea behind our side event, of course, was to facilitate a conversation, you know, between the action coalitions to be established by the Generation Equality Forums and other members of civil society active in like-minded campaigns. And so we hope to we hope to continue to provide this opportunity for cross-fertilization of ideas and initiatives.
Thanks, Jeff. There are a number of questions both in the chat and in the Q&A from colleagues. For example, Jaruo Karebe, I hope I've pronounced that correctly, from Tanzania, is simply giving a précis of his organization's work and asking how they can become more involved. And also, there are similar questions about the innovation hubs, and some colleagues have provided suggestions for the innovation hubs and are anxious to get started. And so I think there's a sort of a general answer to these questions. And first of all, in terms of involvement with the campaign, the kind of question that Jaruo asks is I think there is clear sign-up forms, and they've also been posted in the chat at this meeting for how you can become more involved, and we would encourage you to do so. And part of the outreach that we're doing, the restructuring and partner outreach that we're doing, is also to build a more representative governance structure for the campaign, so that we do aim to have a network of regional colleagues as well that can mobilize activities regionally and engage with their government on some of these processes. So, but regarding the multilateral innovation hubs, that the proposals, if you've submitted a proposal and are wondering just how these multilateral innovation hubs are to be started, I think that it is true that we haven't posted anything yet to our site. There is we're dealing with a lot of submissions, and these we need to take some time to curate and review these various proposals to know which ones and how to group them, because there's overlaps, and how we should best proceed. So I'm sorry if there's been a bit of a delay in the replies on those multilateral innovation hubs.
Fergus, I did actually respond to a question regarding the MIH proposals, and of course we're in the middle of restructuring. We're very eager to get the new steering committee up and running, and our hope is, once the steering committee is up and running and we have a fresh infusion of leadership and capacity, we'll be able to put into place a review process to get these proposals in further development. We're also in fundraising mode here as well, precisely to help facilitate the development of multilateral innovation hubs. So this does take time. I wanted to just acknowledge, Fergus, that we have Ambassador Juan Somavia, who is joined us, at least according to the chat. I don't know if there's an opportunity for us to hear from him for a quick minute, but we're delighted that Ambassador Somavia will be joining us as a lead speaker in one of the upcoming expert roundtables taking place later this month, with a particular focus on 2 of the 12 commitments outlined in the UN 75 political declaration. We will build trust with a deep dive on inequality, and we will improve digital cooperation. So just to acknowledge Ambassador Somavia's attendance here.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jeff. I don't know if it's possible to promote him as a panelist to speak, or whether Monique has perhaps been in touch already about this, but Ambassador Somavia, it's thank you for joining us, and we look forward to working with you at the upcoming event that Jeff just mentioned. Moving on with some of our questions, and many of them are more comments than questions, but here is one from Adem Carroll. My colleagues who are struggling in Myanmar are quite bitter about the failure of responsibility to protect and genocide prevention, especially given the Chinese and Russian vetoes in the UN Security Council. I think innovative approaches are desperately needed to minimize the impact of nationalism and geopolitical games. However, UN departments generate an endless stream of PR and feel-good messaging. Given the failures, is this approach really the way to the hearts and minds of impacted communities? I think that there's a growing sense of urgency. I know that some of the presenters at the recent UN Security Council meeting on Myanmar are quite concerned that not just at the present crackdown from the military, but also the prospects that a wider conflict might be in the offing. And it is a situation that calls out for the responsibility to protect. Indeed, the people of Myanmar are calling out for the implementation of the responsibility to protect and the protection of civilians in the face of the governments that will not fulfill their responsibility to protect civilians. And there's, I think there's when we think about the responsibility to protect as a mechanism for renewing the UN, we must remember that it's not always about military intervention. The prospect of military intervention to bring about change in Myanmar, I think, is not, nobody is considering that seriously. But there are a number of measures that could be taken and should be taken, I think, in the form of other coercive measures, sanctions, diplomacy. A really robust sanctions program is what brought about the changes and the democratic progress that was made in Myanmar, that got got the country as far along in the democratic process as it came, and then until the last election and the crackdown. So I know that's we're a civil society campaign, and there's only so much we can do to influence an intergovernmental process like the UN, and the responsibility to protect does remain controversial as a norm, but it is something that we do feel is a way to it's a norm that we can work with to strengthen civilian protection and minimize the chances of genocide occurring in the future. We do, the criticisms of the responsibility to protect. I don't want to go on too long here, but they're fair criticisms in many cases, but we also we shouldn't criticize. We shouldn't feel that the norm is useless just because the outcome is not what one would have desired, and the responsibility to protect is only a normative framework, and it's only as strong as the actions of governments to fulfill it. If we can make government responses to atrocities like those in Myanmar that Adem Carroll is bringing to us and others, that's certainly something that we would want to pursue. I'm conscious that we've reached the end of our time, and I think I want to just take a moment to thank everybody. Juan Somovia has just been promoted to the. All right, perhaps what we could do is run a little overtime, because Juan Somovia is someone who has had a breadth of experiences in the UN, and I'd like to thank you, first of all, once again, for joining us, sir, and invite you to make a few remarks if you wouldn't mind. The floor is yours.
We can see you.
Well, Jeff, and Fergus, thank you so much. First of all, congratulations on this move from UN 2020 to C4UN. It's very clear, and everything that Jeff explained, I think it gives us a lot of hope about the process. I just want to take up on something that Jeff said about the social summit. I think that it's an issue to be thought about. Some of you may know I was very much involved in the first summit. What it did, from my point of view, is that the notion that people have to be at the center of everything that the UN does was in fact politically established there. It was the first summit on social development, and that's where it is. We continue to repeat the sentence, the phrase, but it's not at all certain that this is what is happening concretely, whether we're talking about the impact of an unbalanced and unfair globalization. The way we dealt with the 2008 crisis, the issue was save the banks, not save people from unemployment. The social retroceso, you say in Spanish, movement backwards, it's a bad translation, on the social situation in the world as a result of the pandemic. So I think that there are many initiatives around, but probably it is the social summit centered on people and with a view of implementing the social dimension of how do we give political support to the social dimension of the 2030 agenda and of the 75 UN declaration that can cover many of the other initiatives because they're somehow interlinked. But the linkage between all of them is people. So I truly believe, beyond the fact that I love very much the first social summit, I truly believe that we do have a moment of opportunity here. And we have to see how we, under the notion of the social summit, we can put a number of other issues of implementation and inclusive governance, etc. That is perfectly possible. So thank you so much. I'm very happy to be participating in an event next week. And just to say that, please move forward. I have lived in civil society. We had 17 years of a dictatorship. We were creative enough to adapt and do what needed to be done from society, but it's always been part of the way of thinking into international order. So thank you so much. There's an enormous amount of things that we can do at the citizen level. The UN has to be able to adapt to the fact that representative democracy is not enough, that we need to move towards represent the participatory democracy. But we don't really know how to do that because we haven't had the experience. So there is a lot of creativity apropos of all of the creative things that can be done. I think that the notion of what does it mean, participatory democracy at the national level, but also what are the implications of the change in practices of the United Nations, recognizing that this is a central part that is not just asking civil society, but civil society participating from the conception of a problem to its implementation as a policy to the evaluation, to the proposal of changes, etc. So thank you so much for these few minutes. And I'm very much with all of you. And thank you, Jeff and Fergus, for giving us the explanations. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you very much, Ambassador, and for those inspiring words. And we look forward to the event next week. I think you're absolutely right on the mark in terms of the potential of a social summit, the potential of the historical moment we are in as governments and international organizations build back better and come out of the pandemic in ways that hopefully can strengthen social cohesion and find ways to deepen democracy and better involve civil society. So we're just delighted to have you have you with us, and thanks again for those remarks. I think that's a wonderful way to end this global update, and I would just encourage colleagues to stay tuned. We will, continue to provide on an approximately weekly basis update mailers regarding the events that are taking place with the coalition and with various partners of the coalition. So thanks again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.